Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ, Jiu-Jitsu, whatever you want to call it, is a combat style of martial art that basically emphasizes a lot on using ground fighting techniques. So, for example, like taking someone down and making them tap out using a joint lock or a submission, like a choke, to basically defeat your opponent.
Okay.
And you basically using leverage and it doesn't really require much strength to pull off the techniques that you're doing. So that's what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is in a nutshell. All I do is just roll around and try to strangle people all day.
Okay. What are the major differences between wrestling and BJJ?
Wrestling, I think, basically is focused a lot on the pinning the opponent, and you have to pin them for I think 3 seconds or something to win the match. When Jiu-Jitsu, we still use wrestling, so we take the person down using wrestling or judo or whatever it may be, techniques, and then the fight continues on the ground until you reach a position of dominance and a position where you can effectively submit your opponent. So that's the difference between the two sports.
Okay. Did you start your passion for Jiu-Jitsu in Perth, and how did that start?
Yeah, I did start in Perth. I started Jiu-Jitsu in Perth when I finished high school, 18, 19, I can't really remember. The first contact I had with Jiu-Jitsu was actually my good friend of mine. His name is William Diaz, the black belt. Today he's got a gym in Malaga.
Okay.
And he was my friend from school. And he kept trying to convince me, man, you gotta start Jiu-Jitsu, just start Jiu-Jitsu. But like most of the community, Somali community, I loved soccer so much. I thought, man, soccer is the be-all and end-all in sport. I said, Jiu-Jitsu, what the hell is that? Is it karate or something? I'm not gonna do Jiu-Jitsu, man, you crazy? So he kept trying to convince me, And, I had some mutual friends as well that used to train. And I think I was playing soccer at the time for Bayswater City South Club.
Okay. Yeah.
I was doing my best impression of a striker, which was not that great. I thought it was amazing, but I wasn't that great. So there came a time when the soccer season ended. I was working at a fast food place here in Dinella, and I was quite overweight. And I said, man, I always looked at him and I said, man, this guy's in pretty good shape. So maybe this jiu-jitsu thing will probably get me in good shape too. That's why I gave it a try. So essentially, one of my mates one night took me to the academy, and it was a really small room in this area in Mount Lawley. That's where the gym was at the time. And the mats were really small. And I stepped in, there was nowhere to sit, it was just literally mats and that was it. It's not like a conventional gym where you have weights and stuff. And there was a bunch of grown-ass men sweating, rolling around, touching each other. And I said, man, this is not the sport for me, man. Like, you know what I mean? All these bunch of dudes in shorts and rash guards, rolling around. I said, man, and then ending up in all these weak positions. Because if you look at jiu-jitsu and you don't know what it is, you think, man, this is weird, I don't really want to get involved in this, And I said, man, I don't want to do that. So it took another 6 months to a year of me actually stepping into the gym. By then they'd moved to Malaga, where they are now.
Okay.
And then I was like, all right, man, I give in. I'm gonna start jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna try whatever this karate thing is,
Yeah.
So I went to the academy, and his father at the time, his name's Guerre, was trying to teach me I remember I was doing a one-on-one with him, and I was learning the basic hip movements, on the ground and stuff. Man, I couldn't even do that. It took me ages to learn those little simple things, And then eventually, a few days later, I joined one of the general classes, and I remember because I was quite big at the time, I was 106 kilos,
Yeah.
I'm still pretty fat right now, but I was much fatter,
Yeah.
So, and then I thought that in my first day we started rolling, the rolling aspect, and I looked on the mat and I said, pick your partners.
Okay.
And then I looked around the room and I looked for the smallest guy that I could find. Simple bully mentality, I was like, man, this must be an easy solution. If you're the biggest, I'm big, find the smallest guy to crush and feel good about myself.
Yeah.
So I looked around the room for the smallest dude, and I saw this guy, his name was Dylan, I think at the time he was blue belt, and I was like, yeah, I got this guy, go, let's do it. So, hey man, you wanna roll? I said, yeah. Man, that was the worst 5 minutes of my life. I felt like this guy was like some kind of wizard or something, he was ending on my back choking me. I said, man, what the hell just happened? I said, no, something's happening here. Went again, choked me again. I said, man. I said, okay, all right, let's do this again. Go, choke again. I said, man, you know what I mean? I'm much bigger than this guy. How the hell is he making me feel like, so small, and he's submitting me every 2 seconds? That's when I got interested in jiu-jitsu. I said, man. Then I realized I don't need to be big. I don't need to be small in order to be good at this sport. You know what I mean? And in that moment, I realized, man, I gotta work very, very hard, because even a blue belt in jiu-jitsu sometimes can take you, some people 3 to 4 years to get. So there's even a big skill gap between a beginner and a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So in jiu-jitsu you have a white, blue, purple, brown, and black belt is the last belt. Sometimes it can take you up to 12, 14 years to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So that it shows you how much training you have to do and dedication to one day get to the black belt. Today I'm brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
You only got one left.
Next belt will be black belt.
Next belt.
Okay, so basically that's how I started jiu-jitsu, and then the rest is.
From the initial days to right now, how's your training patterns? How did you start?
When I first started, I think after a month of training, I went to a competition, a local inter-club competition down in Bunbury. And for that month, before that, I was just training like once or twice a week, whenever I could, And I went to this competition, and then I ended up winning the competition. I have no idea how, because I was horrible, man. I ended up winning because I was basically in a jiu-jitsu competition. You fight people of your same belt rank. Okay. So I was fighting with white belts. Somehow I ended up winning the competition. I got a medal. It was a really ugly, small medal, and I felt so good and proud about myself at that moment, because my whole life I was the kid that, I was okay at soccer and stuff, but I never received an individual award, so to speak. You know what I mean? I never received something that I could call my own, and man, I went out there and did this my own, you know what I mean? Like even in the school carnivals, I remember, man, I used to not even want to enter the school carnivals. So I knew, man, I'm slow as hell. I can't do this around, I'm not gonna win. So I was always that guy that was never really the best athlete, so to speak. So once I got that first medal, I had this feeling of, I was like, man, I gotta do this again. I gotta experience that adrenaline, that feeling again. And I was like, so as soon as I went back to the gym, I was like, man, I want to be a world champion in jiu-jitsu. My coach looks at me like, man, this guy for real? What's this guy talking about? Man, crazy? Like that kind of,
Yeah,
obviously, and I would think someone's crazy too if they just told me they want to be world champion after 1 month of training.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, tell me what I gotta do. He said, man, you gotta train a lot. I said, all right, how much do I need to train? Every day. So I started coming every day, jiu-jitsu, and then I realized, I started training 6 days a week. Jiu-jitsu became my life. From Monday to Saturday, I was training every single day, jiu-jitsu. I stopped everything I was doing. I was working 2 jobs at a time. Stopped that. I was supposed to go to uni. I didn't go. Everyone called me crazy. My mom almost, my mom was stressing. I said, man, what the hell is this guy doing? Oh, she sees me, he's going to this place, rolling with dudes all day, bringing back sweaty clothing, material that we use for the training, the kimono. And she's like, man, this guy's going crazy, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, I love this, I'm going to do this. So I dropped everything for jiu-jitsu. At the time I was 19 years old, and I said, man, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I decided at that point, and ever since today, sometimes today, I can easily train 3 training sessions in one day, which could be about 1.5 hours each. So what is that, 4 or 5 hours a day? Jiu-jitsu training.
Pretty intense, man.
Yeah.
It goes to show you that if you follow your passion, you could succeed in anything you do. And there's not much people out there that are doing that, so I'm glad to see somebody's on that night. So now that you're a father, how has training affected that?
Apart from the no sleep, or? I think becoming a father, I was actually really scared. Like when I was becoming a father, I was like, man, I was stressing out. I was like, man, I'm gonna stop training now. I'm not gonna be able to train. But I'm very lucky. My wife trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. She's a pro belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and actually we met each other through Jiu-Jitsu. And her family, her father trains Jiu-Jitsu, he's a pro belt, and her brother trains. So I was it was very easy for her from the beginning of our relationship. I told her my goals and aspirations in life, and she was very supportive from the very beginning. And I think that becoming a father and having my daughter along in this journey, of life with me, actually made it more rewarding and more motivating than ever. Before I was maybe doing it for more selfish reasons, for myself, but now it's like, man, I can't wait for the day that, she runs and up to me or in the competition and she sees me competing. And not so much winning, but doing my best and following a purpose and a passion, you know what I mean? So I feel like now that I'm a father, I feel a greater sense of responsibility and, to be a great role model for her, and maybe influence her life in a positive way. So I think it's been a great journey so far, all 3 months of it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. To show her that you could choose whatever you want to choose, just dedicate yourself and put 100% effort inside. So how was traveling overseas to do jiu-jitsu? What's the differences between here and over there?
You know, jiu-jitsu, I've been very lucky to go see many places in the world thanks to jiu-jitsu, you know. I've been able to go to, you know, fight in the United Arab Emirates. You know, the jiu-jitsu is a massive thing in there now, you know, like they've got all their schools have now got a jiu-jitsu instructor there, so it's a massive thing over there. They've got the Abu Dhabi World Professional Championships that's happening there every year in April. I'm actually going there this April. You know, I've been to Brazil, America, you know, Japan to compete. So jiu-jitsu has exposed me through traveling to a lot of different cultures and different places that I probably wouldn't naturally find myself in. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest difference for me in terms of the level of opponents, but what was interesting was when I was a blue belt, it was crazy, and I said, man, I want to go to where this all started. I want to go to Brazil. You know, people looked at me and said, man, this guy's crazy. He wants to go to Brazil. Like, man, you're gonna get smashed there, you know. And I started believing what people were saying. I said, man, you know what? But I'm gonna do it. If I get smashed, I get smashed. I don't care. So obviously, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu started in Brazil.
Yeah.
And so I decided to buy a ticket for the World Championships in May for a month to stay in America. I was in Texas, and after that, I went straight to Brazil for about three and a half months to train. And man, that was one of the best experiences of my life. You know, going to this place where, you know, it was a completely different culture, different language, you know. And I realized that they were humans like us too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So even though the other people, sometimes you create you make someone or something feel they have to be so much better than you.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the case. All the people that I faced there had 2 arms and 2 legs, like the people here. You know, no, I didn't face anyone there that had 3 legs and 3 arms. You know, so you know I was able to as well while I was in Brazil. You know, do quite well in the local regional competitions. I went to a few competitions there. You know, the state championships in the state that I was in. I was able to win them. You know, against Brazilians who, you know, from the outside view, they should be smashing me to bits, but you know, I was able to do well. You know, I remember one of the competitions there, even the state championships in Paraná, Brazil, was actually the first day of Ramadan.
Okay.
And we were in this car, and then we had to travel overnight to get to the city called Curitiba in Brazil. And it was the first day of Ramadan, and I was remembering, I said, man. And then I was like, man, the competition, state championship that we were preparing for, landed on the first day of Ramadan. So I would be fasting while competing.
Okay.
Okay, so we got in the car, we're driving, and the guys realizing I'm not eating, I'm not drinking water. And I said, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Like, you know, you're getting ready for competition, you know. They just thought I was cutting weight. I said, no guys, I'm actually fasting. Today's the first day. Man, you're fasting? You crazy? You know, this is the biggest competition in the state. You're gonna go there fasting? How you gonna? They thought fasting just meant not eating. They didn't realize it was not drinking water too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, I went to the competition there, and I just said, man, I'm gonna fast, you know, I'm gonna do it. It's the first day of Ramadan, I gotta fast, I don't care. Jiu-Jitsu comes second, you know. And I went there, I fasted, and I actually won the competition that day. And the craziest thing was about that memory for me was that, you know, even while I was fasting, the first fight I remember, man, my grips, yeah, like had like so much lactic acid build up, and then people were trying to pass me water. And I said, man, I can't drink. I said, what the hell's wrong with this guy? So I passed. The first fight was really hard, you know. And I think I did 3 or 4 more fights that day, and I ended up winning, and that was one of my best memories in jiu-jitsu, you know, being able to go to a competition while I was fasting and still win, you know, in Brazil. And there was different competitions, you know, I went to some competitions in Sao Paulo. I got third in the Sao Paulo Open. I competed in Rio de Janeiro, which was an awesome experience as well. I was able to go to the quarterfinals there. If I won the quarterfinal match, I would have been on the podium at the Rio International Open. So all in all, like, traveling and competing in jiu-jitsu has given me a lot in life, you know what I mean? And I can't wait to keep doing it over and over again.
How did your teammates react after you won when you were fasting?
I think they probably didn't understand, don't believe me to this day, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think they were all happy for me at the time, and you know, I think even myself, it wasn't a big deal that I was fasting at the time, you know. But now that I look back on it, I said, man, it's a pretty cool thing, you know. It's a pretty cool story to share, I think, you know.
Is the atmosphere, would you say, it's a bit different, more electric?
In Brazil, yeah. In Brazil, it's crazy, man. When you compete in the competitions there, like here in Australia, it's a bit more mellow. It's building up, but man, there it's like people in the stands are screaming at you saying, kill him, he's gonna die, you know? And then jiu-jitsu is like, nobody's dying there, man. It's just man, relax, dude, you know? Like, and then for example, in the stadiums in Brazil, I used to remember, certain teams would only sit in certain parts of the stadium. So let's say this team, Novinhal, would only occupy that stand. The next team would occupy this stand, and you can't even intermix in those stands.
Okay.
So it was hectic environment, man. So people are shouting at you, cussing at you, and it's even worse if you're what they call a gringo. A gringo is a
white
man. I was black, so I don't know why they would call me gringo, but it's basically someone that's maybe traveling from a different place, you know?
Okay.
So if they lose to a gringo, man, it was like, man, that was a shame, you know what I mean? So it was cool, man. It was a cool experience. But the atmosphere itself, and competing in Brazil was, I've never experienced anything like it. You know, the World Championships of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu used to be based in Brazil. It's moved to California, and I think it would have been cool if it was still in Brazil, you know? So I think, yeah, it's amazing, amazing atmosphere.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. Were you a white belt when you moved to Sydney? When did you get your blue belt?
No, I was actually a blue belt in Perth, 4-stripe blue belt, and I moved to Sydney as a blue belt, and I received my purple and brown belts in Sydney.
So did you do most of your competitions over there or over here?
I competed a lot as blue belt, but I think I competed the most when I was purple belt. You know, I think most of my competition experience. Then again, saying that, I did compete a lot of white belts, so it's probably even the amount I've competed in Perth and Sydney, maybe a little bit more in Sydney because of the there was much more competitions there in Sydney, so I think I competed more in Sydney.
Was looking for more competition the main reason that you moved over there?
No, the main reason I moved to Sydney wasn't because of competition, to be honest. If you told me a few years ago when I was here in Perth, and I'm a Perth boy, I love this place, you know. I love that there's no traffic on the streets. I love that, you know, you can get to A to B in like 10 to 15 minutes, you know. So the only reason why I did end up in Sydney was because of my wife. My wife, she's from Sydney. We met each other here in Perth. And then she was born in the Northern Beaches area of Sydney, and she grew up there. So when she came to Perth, she found it to be some kind of small village, you know, so she didn't adapt really well.
Yeah.
Kind of got homesick because she had family back in Sydney as well, so. And I didn't mind the change, to be honest. I didn't mind. I love traveling, I love experiencing new places, you know, so I didn't mind going to Sydney. So that's the reason why we ended up back in Sydney, is mainly because of personal family reasons, so we could go back and be home again. That, you know, it was scary, man. Everything I knew in life and growing up was here in Perth. You know, my family, you know, my mom, my brother, everything was here. But I think that sometimes in life it's necessary to take that leap of faith, you know, to go do something that scares you, you know, and just see what happens. You know what I mean? What's the worst that could happen? I thought to myself, what's the worst that could happen? I don't like Sydney. I come back to Perth, you know. So I think that sometimes in life, you know, if we're faced with an opportunity to do something, you know, we should try it, man. You know, what's the worst that could happen? You know, you fail. You know, people are scared of failure, so what? I'm not scared of failure. You know, I'm not scared of what I might look to that next person. I don't care what the next person thinks of me, you know what I mean? I couldn't care less. So for me, it was just a matter of, you know, it was a challenge, it was exciting, there was a huge chance that it could go wrong, and that's what excited me, you know? I love it, you know, I love the adrenaline, I love not knowing what's gonna happen, you know, so that's the reason why I did it.
You reckon the team that you joined, Gracie Baja, was more competitive than the one that was here in Perth?
No, I don't agree with that. I think both teams are very good, you know. But the team that I train with here, the head coach of that team, and his son has got a very, very high level of jiu-jitsu. William is probably, I think, the guy that got me started in jiu-jitsu is, in my opinion, the best black belt in Australia. You know, most technical, most gifted, most athletic, you know. So I don't think, you know, that I wouldn't be good at jiu-jitsu if I stayed here. You know, I think I would be just as good, you know. So in terms of just training, there's very good training here as well in Perth. You know, there's a lot of places and a lot of people that have got a very high level of jiu-jitsu. I think the only thing difference in Sydney is, you know, I was exposed to more competitions, you know, but there's also still high level of training partners there. And the only difference I think I would say would be I have like I was exposed to a more like a career pathway there through jiu-jitsu, you know, and being part of such a huge organization like Gracie Bar, which I'm very proud of to be a part of today, you know. So Yeah, in terms of training, there's hard training everywhere, man. It's up to the person, you know what I mean? If you train hard, if you put the time in, you know, anywhere can be good. You know?
Yeah. Could you explain to me more about Gracie Barra?
Oh man, I feel like I should be able to talk about Gracie Barra a lot. Gracie Barra is the biggest jiu-jitsu association in the world today. I think it's got something like over 700 schools. Gracie Barra is very special to me because that's, you know, it represents a lot of the values that I carry with myself in life. The team itself is, you know, it started in Rio de Janeiro many years ago. You know, Jiu-Jitsu itself started in Brazil, so the Gracie family, which Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was taught to by a Japanese guy in the early 1900s named Mitsuo Maeda, taught the sport to the Gracie family and taught it to Carlos Gracie and his brother, Helio Gracie. So I came from Carlos Gracie's lineage. So his son, Master Carlos Gracie Jr., who is now the leader of Gracie Barra, is the person whose lineage I fought under, and he's the founder of Gracie Barra, which is the biggest jiu-jitsu school now in the world. And yeah, look, it's amazing to be part of Gracie Barra. You know, I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed to be part of such a great, strong team, a strong support network. I think it's very, you know, you feel very. It's a privilege to be part of something so big and so big. You know, like a lot of jiu-jitsu teams these days, and academies will, for example, name their academy or their school under their own name. You know what I mean? But the problem with that is, like, what happens when you give you a black belt, you open a school under your name. You know what I mean? So Gracie Barra was able to bring all these people together and make them compete and fight under one flag, you know, under Gracie Barra. That's what makes it so special, I think, you know what I mean? And represent one flag instead of representing an individual, represent a team, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm attached to Gracie Barra, and I'm really proud to represent it.
So, with the Somali teenagers, obviously there are a lot of, especially the boys, they're really gifted and very athletic, and most of them are interested in soccer. Yep. Even though like they don't make it into the higher leagues and anything like that, they just kick around and they're really passionate about it. They spend a lot of time on it.
Yep.
But they don't really try to diversify or go into different fields or anything like that. And for example, there's only few people that ever tried to do that. So for example, Mohamed Farah.
Yes.
I heard his story when he was in school. He wanted to play for Arsenal, he wanted to be a soccer player.
Yeah.
And there was one of his teachers that actually told him, look, you're good at this, why don't you try to pursue a career in athletic and running?
Yeah.
And for you, I remember knowing you from a young age, you also were crazy about soccer. I wanted to always play soccer, stuff like that. Yeah. And it also took one person to tell you, why don't you try this? Yeah. So I'm thinking, is there a thing that if Somali teenagers or boys, they tried in different sports or different fields, that they could succeed in it, and what way would you advise for them to try to pursue those kind of opportunities?
I think basically growing up as well, I remember me coming to soccer on Saturdays in Gerween and to Maylands back in the day. I think as Somalis we're very connected to soccer because all the kids love soccer, they want to play soccer and this and that. And I was the same, you know. So I think it's very natural for all the Somali kids to want to play soccer and pursue soccer, but they need to also realize that there's many other like sports and stuff they can play too. You know what I mean? That they could probably enjoy more of. So answering that question, I think maybe if there's like youth events and stuff, they can include more different sports, I would say, instead of soccer. So from a young age, maybe they can be introduced to, let's say, AFL, for example. I remember there's a friend of mine, his brother is Sudanese, and he grew up playing soccer his whole life. And at the age of 18 or 19 now recently, I think he's just been signed to West Coast Eagles as a professional player. You know, so I think from a young age, if we involve the Somali kids in different kind of sports, that'll give them a different options. Then maybe we'll have like some swimmers, maybe we'll have some AFL players, some, I don't know, boxers or something. So I think that, you know, it's very easy for all of our kids to play soccer because our fathers play soccer and our fathers want to go to soccer, so we go to soccer, and you know what I mean. it's convenient to play soccer because the community is playing soccer. So I think that, it takes only a few kids, I think, to try out new things and then maybe be good at them, and they'll be example for the rest of the community to try new things and get out of their comfort zone, to try a new sport. So I remember when I started jiu-jitsu, and I used to go to sometimes play soccer, they used to look at me and say, man, there's that karate guy, and they used to laugh at me, you know what I mean? There's that guy that does, the wrestling, he thinks he's WWE. It's not WWE. WWE, like, where they jump off that turnbuckle, WWF. And they used to kind of like, because I was different, and I don't blame them, because I was different from the other youth in the Somali, I felt like I was kind of, what's the word? I was looked down upon in a certain aspect, like, why is this guy trying to be different? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was looked at in a different way. But, and I'm not blaming them for that, because it was different. I'm going down a different path, a different sport, so, I think maybe that's why a lot of the youth are scared. They're scared to go play AFL, maybe because their friends or other community members say, what is this guy doing playing AFL or playing tennis? Tennis is, this or that, you know what I mean? So maybe it's the community as a whole needs to accept and allow people and support them, no matter what sport they pick, and try to get the best out of them.
Got some questions?
Yeah, this is a two-part question.
Was that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Thanks.
This is a two-part question.
Yes.
One part is, so one part
Sorry,
is,
what was your name?
Zainab.
Zainab, nice to meet you, Zainab.
So one part is, I think a lot of culturally and linguistically diverse kids don't get involved in sports or extracurricular activities, so they fall into trouble. So what's one way we can convince the community that sports isn't something just for kids are wasting time? And also the second part is, I think a lot of parents, especially Somali parents, they're scared that if their kids become obsessed with soccer, they'll forget about the academics. So how can we also convince parents to accept physical activity or extracurricular activities while also making sure the kids know how to balance both?
Yeah. So for the first question was, you were asking me, man, I've got remembering
Sorry,
goldfish. Let's do it one at a time. The first question, can you repeat that again, please?
So basically, I was just saying, most of our kids in the culturally and linguistically diverse community, we don't have activities for our kids outside. So they fall into trouble. So how can, as we as a community, start building a foundation for them to be able to do activities?
Okay, I think that's a good question. I think that through the community youth leaders like Abdurrahim here, I think parents need to be willing to bring their kids and take them to the events and the sports and allow them to get involved in these extracurricular activities more often. I think, and sometimes it may be a bit hard for the parents, because they've got other responsibilities and this and that. Maybe engage with other parents and somehow make it easier for them to, take the kids to a sport event on the weekend or something, something to keep them busy. And I think if the community somehow, maybe the community leaders can find a bus or something to make it easier for the parents, because some parents maybe don't have a car or don't have the means to take their kids every weekend to, because most sports, you have to go travel, for example, soccer, to different suburbs, and some parents can't do that. So maybe the youth leaders can somehow organize more convenient ways of transport for the kids. I think that would help get the kids more involved in sport. Does that answer your question?
That did.
All right.
And the second one was for both the parents and the kids, because parents will be scared that their kids will become obsessed.
Yes.
So how do we not only convince them, but also make sure that the kids balance the sport or whatever they're doing with their studies, so not just abandon their studies straight away?
When obsessed is a very interesting word, yeah? I think that, if a child is obsessed with a sport, that's a very good thing. Because if you want to be good, the greatest sports athletes of all time, if you study them and read about them, when they were young, they were obsessed about their sport. So taking away that obsession for them to balance it out with other things, I think it's not a good thing. If the kid truly loves something and is obsessed with it, light that fire, man, keep fueling it, because one day they could be the best that I think that they ever was. You know what I mean? So
is there a way to be obsessed with something?
Yeah, I'll get to that in the education factor. I think that the education, they can also be obsessed at that. So they can also be obsessed with getting good grades, being a good student, but at the same time, you don't really want to diminish their fuel, their fire in their other obsession in a sense. If that makes sense?
Yes. One last question, sorry,
No
I'm
worries.
asking so much. You know, like I've noticed like a lot of kids, well, in our community anyways, like they're not, well, some of them are, let me not like, you know, generalize, but like they're not particularly amazing in their academics,
Yep.
and they're not outgoing in other fields. Do you think that's because we don't build up our kids, like as a community, we don't psychologically build them up and like love them and encourage them?
You know, I think, I remember growing up as a kid, you know, I feel like there's a lot of, in the community, in all communities, a lot of comparisons. You know, as growing up, I always felt like, why am I not as smart as my auntie's kid? You know, because mom always tells me I'm not as smart as my auntie's kid. Why am I not going to that uni? Because that woman's kid is going to the best uni. You know, so I always felt there was a pressure involved, you know, in the community where people are using, you know, other people's children's success and telling their kids, well, why aren't you as smart as that guy? You know what I mean? That's not the reason, that's not the case. You know, I think everyone's got different abilities, different talents. Some people are not academic, you know, and you can't change that. You know what I mean? Some people will be more athletic and into sport, and some people, maybe they don't want to go to uni, they want to be a plumber or an electrician or something, and we can't look down on them because they didn't go a degree. You know what I mean? I think that, and there's nothing wrong with pursuing academic knowledge, like going to uni and stuff. The people that do it and that achieve that, you know, that benchmark of education, that's amazing. You know, I wish I did it. You know, maybe I'll do it one day, but that doesn't make anyone less smart than the next person. Make sense? So I feel like in the community in general, there's a lot of pressure on the kids to be that person that their parents want them to be, you know, and I think the parents need to be a bit more flexible and allow the kids to decide what their passion is and be the best in that area, instead of, you know, being someone maybe they don't want to be, because I've met a lot of people that, you know, are university graduates and they end up in a job, a 9-to-5 job that they hate, and then you ask them, why did you do that degree then if you didn't like it? Why are you in this job? Oh, because my parents told me I have to do this. Oh man, that's a pretty sad way to live the rest of your life, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think our parents just want us to be happy as well, you know, so find what makes you happy, do it. If they don't think it's good for you, but eventually they'll be happy because you're happy.
Okay, we've got one more question, guys. Good. One more question.
I actually don't have a question, but I was just going to say something. My son is at an age where now, when he's looking at, when he's approaching sports and stuff like that, he looks at certain people who are competing in those sports, and he will try to sort of recognize somebody who he can identify with.
Yep.
So he talked about identity issues and stuff like that. I actually came to this event simply because a friend of mine told me, hey, look, there's a Somali Jiu-Jitsu champion guy coming to Perth to do a talk. You should go see. And it turns out that particular person, his little brother, who also follows you, is now, Idris Yalla is now competing in, competing in boxing in Cuba.
Oh, very nice, man.
Yeah, and he's also 4 times national champion.
That's
Four-time Australian
under
champion.
That's awesome.
So I guess with kids, like what they do is first when they want to approach something or get motivated, they try to find something or somebody that they can identify with.
A source
You know,
of inspiration.
A source of inspiration, and I think that's what you are. And I thought it was a good opportunity to actually bring my son along.
Thank you for bringing him. I really appreciate that.